The massive crystal dome of Centauri Prime gleamed under 3 purple suns. Inside the great hall, beings from 12 different worlds sat in their special chairs. Some floated in water tanks. Others hung from the ceiling like glowing clouds. A few stood on 4 legs while their bodies looked like living rocks. Jake Morrison adjusted his simple black uniform and looked around the room. Next to him, Lisa Carter checked her tablet one more time. They were the only humans in a room full of aliens who barely looked at them. The Galactic Council had been meeting for over 300 years. Every important decision in this part of space happened here. Trade deals worth billions of credits. Wars that could destroy entire star systems. Treaties that kept peace between worlds that hated each other. Today, they would decide if humans could join their group. Jake watched as a tall bug-like creature clicked its way across the floor. The Vorthak delegate moved like a giant praying mantis, but with 6 arms instead of 2. Its eyes were black and cold. When it looked at Jake, it made a sound like laughing, but not the nice kind. "The humans think they belong here," the Vorthak said to another delegate. Its voice sounded like glass breaking. "Look at their tiny ship outside. We could step on it." Lisa kept her face calm, but Jake saw her hands tighten around her tablet. Their ship was small compared to the alien vessels floating around the planet. The human ship looked like a toy next to the Vorthak war cruiser that was 3 miles long near the center of the room. Something that looked like living water moved in a clear tank. The Nereid delegate had no real shape. It changed from looking like a woman to looking like a fish to looking like nothing at all. When it spoke, bubbles came up through the water. "Humans still use medicine to fight disease," the Nereid gurgled. "They try to stop death instead of accepting it." Very primitive. Jake bit his tongue. Human medicine had saved millions of lives. Just last year, they had cured a disease that had killed people for thousands of years. But here, saving lives was seen as going against nature. The worst part was how the aliens acted like humans were not even there. They talked about Earth like Jake and Lisa could not hear them. They shared jokes about human technology. They compared humans to pets they used to have. A floating ball of light drifted down from the ceiling. This was Zephyros, the council leader. It did not have a body like humans understood bodies. It was pure energy held together by will and science that humans did not understand yet. "We will now hear from the human delegation," Zephyros said. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. Jake stood up. He had practiced this speech 100 times. "Honored members of the Galactic Council, we come from Earth seeking friendship and partnership. Humanity has much to offer." He pressed a button on his tablet. Pictures appeared in the air above them. Earth's blue oceans and green lands, cities full of lights, ships flying between planets in their solar system. "We have developed fusion power that is clean and safe. Our medical technology can extend life and reduce suffering. We have art, music, and stories from thousands of different cultures on our world." The pictures showed human achievements. Hospitals where sick people got better. Farms that could grow food in space. Factories that made things without hurting the environment. But Jake could see that most of the aliens were not paying attention. The Vorthak was cleaning its claws. The Nereid was making shapes in its water that looked like it was bored. A rock-like creature called a golem was actually sleeping. Only a few seemed interested. A cat-like alien with purple fur leaned forward to look at the pictures of human art. Some small bird-like creatures chirped quietly to each other about human music. Lisa took over the presentation. "Humans also offer our perspective on problem-solving. We approach challenges differently than other species. This diversity could strengthen the Galactic Council." She showed videos of humans working together, scientists from different countries sharing ideas, engineers building things that should not work but did, artists creating beauty from nothing. Our emotional responses, which some might see as weakness, actually help us find creative solutions. When we care deeply about something, we work harder to fix it. The Vorthak made that glass-breaking laugh again. "Emotions make decisions poor. Logic makes decisions good. Humans too emotional for important work." Your fusion technology is at least 50 years behind our plasma systems, added a delegate that looked like a metal spider. Your medicine is crude compared to our genetic restructuring. Your art is ... interesting but not useful. Jake felt his heart sink. Every human achievement was being dismissed. Everything they were proud of was called primitive or useless. Zephyros floated higher, casting light across the dome ceiling. The Council has reviewed the human application for membership. We have considered your technology, your culture, and your potential contribution to galactic civilization. The room grew quiet. Even the aliens who had not been paying attention looked up. The decision is unanimous, Zephyros continued. Humans are not ready for full membership in the Galactic Collective. Jake had expected this, but it still hurt to hear it said out loud. However, Zephyros added, we recognize that humans show some promise. We offer you protected status as a developing species. You would be placed under the guidance of more advanced civilizations who could help you grow. Lisa stepped forward. What would this protected status mean exactly? A new voice answered. It came from something that looked like a tree made of metal and wire. It means you do what we tell you to do. We help you become better. You give us things we want from your world. Everyone benefits. You would not be allowed to make your own trade agreements, added the metal spider. We would handle all contact with other species for you. Much safer that way. Jake and Lisa looked at each other. They had talked about this possibility during the long trip to Centauri Prime. Becoming a protected species meant giving up human independence. It meant letting aliens control what humans could do in space. We appreciate the offer, Jake said, carefully. But we need time to discuss this with our government. The Vorthak made a clicking sound that might have been impatience. Humans always need more time. This is why you are not ready for real membership. Take all the time you need. Zephyros said, but its tone suggested it did not really care either way. The offer will remain open. When you are ready to accept guidance, contact us. The delegates began to float, walk, and crawl away from their seats. Some stopped to talk about trade deals with each other. Others discussed military exercises. None of them looked at the humans again. Jake packed up the tablet with their presentation that no one had really watched. Lisa gathered the documents they had prepared to answer questions that no one had asked. As they walked toward the exit, Jake heard pieces of conversation from the aliens. Should have expected this result. Humans are barely out of their gravity. Well, did you see their little fusion reactor design? My offspring could build better toys. Protected status is generous. Most species that primitive get ignored completely. Outside the crystal dome, their ship waited on a landing pad that was too small for any real alien vessel. The Endeavor looked exactly like what the aliens said it was. Small, simple, primitive. But as they walked up the ramp into their ship, Jake was thinking about something else. During the long presentation, while the aliens were dismissing human achievements, they had also been revealing their own secrets, their technologies, their weaknesses, their political problems. The aliens thought humans were too primitive to be a threat. That meant they had not been careful about what they said in front of them. Jake smiled as the ship's door closed behind them. Sometimes being underestimated was the best advantage of all. 6 months had passed since the meeting on Centauri Prime. Dr. Adam Lewis sat in his lab on Earth, looking at screens filled with alien information. Around him, other scientists worked quietly at their computers. They were studying everything. Humans had learned about the galaxy. Adam picked up a coffee cup and took a sip. The coffee was cold, but he did not notice. His mind was focused on the data from the Vorthak homeworld. The bug-like aliens had shared details about their hive cities during casual conversation. They thought humans were too primitive to understand or use the information. They were wrong. Adam, look at this, called Dr. Katie Brooks from across the room. She was an engineer who had spent years building better engines for human ships. Now she was working on something much more interesting. Adam walked over to her workstation. On her screen was a design for a new type of power source. It looked similar to what the metal spider aliens used, but Katie had made important changes. Their plasma systems are powerful, Katie explained, but they have a big weakness. They depend on rare crystals that only grow on 3 planets. If something happened to those planets, their entire civilization would lose power. She pointed to her new design. Human fusion power might be simpler, but it uses materials we can find anywhere. We can make fuel from seawater, much more reliable. Adam nodded. This was exactly what they needed to understand. The aliens had better technology in some ways, but their systems had problems they did not even see. Have you shown this to Captain Rodriguez yet? Adam asked. He is coming by later today, Katie said. Along with Dr. Price, they want to see everything we have learned. Captain Ben Rodriguez was busy that day. He was visiting the last human embassy in alien space. The building was small and simple compared to the alien structures around it, but it had been a symbol of human presence in the galaxy. Now, it was time to close it down. Ben walked through the empty rooms with his small crew. They were packing up everything humans had brought to this distant world. Computers, furniture, even the coffee machine from the break room. Sir, we are getting messages from the Centauri, said Lieutenant Carol Stone. She was young but smart, and Ben trusted her. Judgment. They want to know why we are leaving. Ben looked at the message on her tablet. The Centauri seemed confused. They had enjoyed trading with humans. Human art and music were popular on their crystal world. Some Centauri had even learned to speak English. Tell them we are reorganizing our operations, Ben said. It was not a lie, exactly. Humans were reorganizing. They were just not telling the aliens what the new organization would look like. What about the Traders Guild? Carol asked. They have been sending requests for rare earth metals every day. Ben smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Tell them we are no longer selling those materials. Human needs come first now. This was part of the plan that President Stone had approved. President Stone was Carol's aunt, which sometimes made things confusing. But both women were patriots who wanted what was best for humanity. The plan was simple. Humans would stop all contact with alien civilizations. No trade, no cultural exchange, no scientific cooperation, no answering distress calls, nothing. Doctor Helen Price had suggested this approach after studying alien behavior for months. Helen was a xenopsychologist, which meant she studied how alien minds worked. What she had discovered was disturbing. Helen was in her office on Earth, writing her final report on alien psychology. She had interviewed every human who had contact with aliens. Diplomats, traders, scientists, even tourists who had visited alien worlds. The pattern was clear. Aliens had become lazy. They depended on their old technology and old ways of thinking. When they had problems, they looked for simple solutions. When those did not work, they asked other species for help. Humans had been helping without realizing it. Every time a human solved a problem in a new way, aliens learned from it. Every time humans shared an idea, aliens used it to fix their own issues, but the aliens never gave humans credit for this help. They took human ideas and claimed them as their own. They used human creativity and called it alien innovation. We have been their secret weapon, Helen wrote in her report. They dismiss us as primitive, but they need our different way of thinking. They just do not want to admit it. The report went to President Stone, who read it carefully. Then she called a meeting of her top advisors. General Matt Johnson was there, along with Admiral Chris Turner and Secretary of Science Patricia Lane. Dr. Price's report confirms what we suspected, President Stone said. The aliens need us more than they want to admit, so we are going to test that theory. She stood up and walked to a large screen showing star maps. Human colonies were marked in blue. Alien territories were marked in different colors. Trade routes connected everything like a spider web. Starting today, we implement the Quiet Protocol, she announced. No human responds to any alien communication. No exceptions. General Johnson leaned forward. What if they try to force contact? What if they send ships to our colonies? Then we defend ourselves, Admiral Turner said, but quietly. No threats. No warnings. We just disappear from their universe. Secretary Lane looked worried. This could hurt human colonies that depend on alien trade. Some of our outer settlements buy food and medicine from alien merchants. That is why we are starting Project Horizon, President Stone replied. We are going to become completely self-sufficient. No more depending on anyone else for anything. Project Horizon was the biggest secret project in human history. Katie Brooks was put in charge of the engineering teams. Her job was to take everything. Humans had learned about alien technology and make it better. The project had three main goals. First, create better weapons and defenses than any alien military. Second, develop technology that did not depend on rare materials controlled by aliens. Third, find new ways to solve problems that aliens thought were impossible. Katie worked 18 hours a day with teams of the best human engineers and scientists. They had workshops hidden on the moon, on Mars, and in asteroid mines far from Earth. Each team worked on different pieces of the puzzle. The weapons team created new types of energy shields and beam weapons. But they were designed using human thinking, not alien blueprints. They were unpredictable and adaptive. Alien computer. Systems would not be able to counter them easily. The materials team found ways to create everything humans needed without buying from aliens. They developed new mining techniques and manufacturing processes. Soon, human colonies would not need to import anything. The problem-solving team was the most important. They studied every major challenge facing alien civilizations. Diseases that alien medicine could not cure. Environmental problems that alien science could not fix. Social issues that alien governments could not handle. Then they found human solutions. Solutions that were creative, unconventional, and effective. Meanwhile, the quiet protocol was working exactly as planned. Alien messages to human colonies went unanswered. Requests for trade meetings were ignored. Invitations to scientific conferences were declined without explanation. At first, most aliens barely noticed. They were busy with their own affairs. The Galactic Council continued meeting and making decisions without thinking about humans, but some aliens did notice. The Zentari sent increasingly worried messages about their cultural exchange programs. Several young Zentari had been learning human music and wanted to visit Earth. The Traders Guild noticed that human markets had disappeared overnight. Rare metals from Earth were no longer available. Human manufactured goods stopped appearing. In alien stores, most disturbing to some aliens, humans stopped answering distress calls. For years, human ships had been among the first to respond when alien vessels had emergencies. Human rescue teams were known for going into dangerous situations to save lives. Now, when alien ships sent distress signals near human space, there was only silence. Dr. Adam Lewis monitored alien communications from a secret listening post beyond Pluto. His job was to watch how aliens reacted to human silence. The early signs were interesting. Alien governments were not worried yet, but individual aliens were starting to ask questions. Why had humans become so quiet? Where had they gone? What were they doing? Adam smiled as he read the intercepted messages. The aliens had spent so long ignoring humans that they had forgotten how much they actually depended on them. Soon, they would remember. And by then, it would be too late. The alarm sounded across the Nereid homeworld like a dying whale. Deep under the purple oceans, millions of water-breathing aliens felt their hearts freeze with fear. The ancient machines that cleaned their water had stopped working for over 2,000 years. The great purifiers had turned poisonous seawater into the pure liquid the Nereids needed to survive. The machines were so old that no living Nereid remembered how to build them. They just worked, day after day, year after year. Until now, Guruk Nem floated in the emergency council chamber, his water body shifting between shapes as panic set in. He was the chief engineer of the homeworld, but that title meant nothing when the machines he was supposed to understand were completely mysterious to him. "How long do we have?" asked the Nereid Prime Minister, her voice creating bubbles that popped with worry. "The reserve tanks will last maybe 30 days, Guruk Nem replied. "After that, the water becomes poisonous." We start dying. The Prime Minister's form became sharp and angular, the way Nereids looked when they were angry. Contact the Galactic Council immediately. Someone must know how to fix this. Messages went out across the galaxy that day. The Nereids needed help, and they needed it fast. Their emergency requests went to every major alien civilization. To the Vorthak with their insect technology. To the Zentari with their crystal science. To the metal spider people with their advanced computers. The responses came back slowly. Each alien civilization studied the problem and sent their best experts. But the Nereid water purifiers were built using technology that no one understood. Anymore, the original builders had been dead for thousands of years. We need to think differently about this, suggested one expert, a cat-like alien from the outer rim. Maybe we should ask the humans. They approach problems in unusual ways. The suggestion was quickly dismissed. Humans are too primitive, said the Vorthak expert. If we cannot solve this, how could they possibly help? Meanwhile, on Earth, Tony Clark sat in his monitoring station reading the intercepted alien communications. Tony was an engineer who had volunteered to spend 2 years alone in a space station far from Earth. His job was to listen to alien radio signals and report what he heard. The Nereid crisis was just the beginning. Tony's screen showed emergency signals from across the galaxy. The Vorthak homeworld was sending distress calls about their climate control systems. The Traders Guild was reporting economic collapse in 12 star systems. Even the mighty Zentari were having problems with their crystal technology. Tony made detailed notes about each crisis. Then he sent encrypted reports back to Earth using quantum communication systems. The aliens could not detect or intercept. Dr. Rachel Torres received Tony's reports in her office at the Global Defense Center. Rachel had been promoted to head of Alien Affairs after the previous director retired. She was young for such an important job, but she had a gift for seeing patterns that others missed. The pattern in Tony's reports was clear and disturbing. Every alien crisis involved systems that had been working fine for hundreds or thousands of years. Old technology that suddenly started failing, problems that alien science could not solve. They built their civilizations on technology they did not really understand, Rachel said to her assistant. When those systems break down, they do not know how to fix them, but there was something else in the reports. Something that made Rachel's blood run cold. In every case, the aliens had tried to solve their problems using the same methods they had always used: logical analysis, computer modeling, traditional approaches. None of it worked. The problems were too complex, too chaotic, too unpredictable for alien thinking to handle. They need human creativity, Rachel realized. Our messy, emotional, illogical way of thinking. That is what has been keeping their systems stable. She immediately called President Stone with her findings. The president listened carefully, then asked the question Rachel had been dreading. How many people are going to die if we do nothing? Rachel looked at her calculations. On the Nereid homeworld alone, maybe 50 million? The Vorthak cities could lose 10 million more. The economic collapse might cause famines that kill hundreds of millions across multiple worlds. President Stone was quiet for a long moment. And if we help them? They go back to treating us like servants, Rachel said. Nothing changes, they learn nothing. We save them now, and they forget about us again until the next crisis. The president made her decision. The quiet protocol continues. We do not break silence for anyone or anything. The decision was hard, but it was the right one. Humans had learned a painful lesson at the Galactic Council. Being helpful and generous had earned them nothing but contempt. Now it was time for the aliens to learn what life was like without human help. The Nereid crisis got worse every day. Their scientists worked around the clock trying to understand the ancient purifiers, but the technology was too advanced for them. The machines used principles that the current generation of Nereids had never learned. Desperate, they tried to build new purifiers using modern technology. But modern Nereid engineering was actually less advanced than the ancient systems. Their new machines could not handle the complex chemistry of their poisoned oceans. As the days passed, the reserve water tanks emptied. Some Nereids tried to leave their homeworld, but most had never lived anywhere else. Their bodies were adapted to their specific ocean environment. Other worlds were dangerous or deadly to them. The Vorthak faced a different but equally deadly problem. Their hive cities were enclosed environments where millions of insect-like aliens lived in perfect climate control. The temperature, humidity, and air mixture were precisely controlled by ancient computers. When those computers started malfunctioning, the hive cities became death traps. The air became too hot in some areas, too cold in others. The humidity levels swung wildly, making it hard for Vorthak to breathe. The Vorthak tried to fix the computers using their logical, systematic approach. They analyzed every circuit, every program, every data stream. But the computers had been designed by earlier generations of Vorthak who thought differently. The programming was full of intuitive leaps and creative solutions that modern Vorthak could not understand. Our ancestors were more like humans, one elderly Vorthak engineer admitted in a private message that Tony Clark intercepted. They used chaos and creativity in their designs. We have become too rigid to understand their work. The economic crisis hit the Traders Guild the hardest. For centuries, they had used computer programs to manage trade across the galaxy. The programs balanced supply and demand, predicted market changes, and optimized trade routes, but the programs had been designed when humans were part of the galactic economy. Human behavior was unpredictable, chaotic, and creative. The computer programs had learned to account for this chaos. They built flexibility into their calculations to handle human market behavior. With humans gone, the programs were overcompensating for chaos that no longer existed. They were making wild predictions and crazy trades. The carefully balanced galactic economy was collapsing because the computers were programmed to expect human unpredictability. The worst crisis of all was developing on Centauri Prime, the crystal. Technology that powered their civilization was starting to resonate with their planet's core in a dangerous way. The resonance was growing stronger every day, and no Centauri scientists could figure out why. The problem was spreading to other worlds that used Centauri crystal technology. 17 planets were now reporting dangerous resonance patterns. Some had already begun evacuating their populations. Dr. Sandra White, working in her laboratory on Earth, studied the intercepted data about the crystal crisis. Sandra was a physicist who specialized in harmonic analysis. She could see the pattern that the alien scientists were missing. The crystals are responding to emotional resonance, she explained to her team. Centauri emotions are very controlled and predictable. For thousands of years, their crystals have been stable because Centauri feelings are stable. She pointed to graphs showing the resonance patterns. But without humans in their civilization, something has changed. Maybe they are more anxious, maybe they are afraid. Their emotional state is different, and it is affecting their crystal technology. The solution was obvious to Sandra, but it would be impossible for the Centauri to discover on their own. They would have to admit that emotions could affect their precious logical technology. For a species that prided itself on pure reason, this was unthinkable. All across the galaxy, alien civilizations were discovering the same painful truth. The systems they had built over thousands of years were more fragile than they had realized. They depended on things the aliens had not understood or appreciated. Most of all, they had depended on the chaotic, creative, emotional influence of humanity. The aliens had dismissed humans as primitive and emotional. They had seen human unpredictability as a weakness, but that unpredictability had been keeping their ordered, logical systems from becoming too rigid and brittle. Now, without human chaos to keep them flexible, the alien systems were breaking down one by one. And the humans were watching it all happen from their quiet corner of the galaxy, waiting to see how long it would take for the aliens to swallow their pride and ask for help. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Council leader Zephyros flickered weakly as power failures spread across the crystal dome. The energy being that once shone like a small star now looked like a dying candle. Around the chamber, alien delegates argued loudly in their different languages. The Nereid representative was barely alive, floating in water that was slowly turning green with poison. 3 Vorthic delegates had collapsed from breathing problems caused by their failing hive cities. The Traders Guild representative had not spoken in hours, staring at economic reports that showed complete financial collapse. Order, we must have order. Zephyros tried to shout, but his voice was weak. The power grid that fed his energy form was failing along with everything else. The Zentari delegate, a tall crystal being named Kethmore, stood up slowly. His normally bright body was dim and cracked. 23 worlds have now reported crystal resonance failures. We have begun evacuating populations, but we do not have enough ships. The situation is the same everywhere, said the cat-like delegate from the outer rim. Our computer networks are failing. Our transportation systems are breaking down. Our food production is stopping. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It belonged to a young Zentari scientist who was not supposed to be there. Her name was Crixvia, and she had broken into the council session without permission. I know why this is happening, Crixvia announced. Every alien in the chamber turned to look at her. It started when the humans left. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Impossible, shouted the Vorthic delegate. Humans are primitive. They cannot affect our technology. Remove this person, demanded the Traders Guild representative. She speaks nonsense. But Crixvia continued talking, her crystal body growing brighter as she became excited. I've been studying the data from before and after human contact. Every system failure began after we stopped interacting with them. She activated a holographic display that showed timelines and graphs. Look at the patterns. When humans were present in our civilization, we had fewer system failures. Our computers worked better, our problems got solved faster. Correlation is not causation, said the metal spider delegate. This proves nothing. Then explain the crystal resonance, Crixvia challenged. It started exactly 67 days after the last human left Zentari space. The resonance patterns match stress, frequencies that occur when our emotional state changes. The chamber grew quiet. No Zentari wanted to admit that emotions could affect their logical crystal technology. The humans were providing something we did not realize we needed, Crixvia continued. Chaos, unpredictability, creative solutions that we could not think of ourselves. Council leader Zephyros grew slightly brighter with interest. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting we contact the humans and ask for their help, Crixvia said simply. The reaction was immediate and loud. Aliens shouted in anger and disbelief. The Vorthic delegate made clicking sounds of disgust. The Nereid representative created angry bubbles in her poisoned water. We do not beg to primitives, the Vorthic shouted. This is beneath our dignity, added the metal spider, but as the arguing continued, more bad news arrived. Emergency reports came in from across the galaxy. The crystal resonance had spread to 41 worlds. Nereid colonies were losing their water supplies. Vorthic cities were becoming uninhabitable. The economic collapse was causing food riots on dozens of planets. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Matt Johnson was receiving very different kinds of reports. His intelligence teams had been monitoring alien attempts to solve their crises, and the results were fascinating. They tried to reverse engineer our fusion technology, reported his chief analyst, but they cannot understand how we make it work. They copy our designs exactly, but the systems fail every time. Matt looked at the technical reports on his desk. The aliens had somehow obtained detailed blueprints of human technology, probably from the embassy buildings they had abandoned, but copying the blueprints was not enough. Human technology requires human thinking, the analyst continued. Our fusion reactors work because we built in safeguards for unexpected problems. We designed them to be flexible and adaptable. Alien engineers cannot copy that kind of thinking. Dr. Sandra White had similar findings in her physics laboratory. The aliens have been sending us messages for weeks, she told her research team. They want our help with the crystal resonance crisis, but they will not admit it directly. She showed them intercepted communications from Zentari scientists. The messages were disguised as academic papers and research proposals, but they were really desperate requests for assistance. They described the crystal problem in great detail. "Hoping we will accidentally send them the solution," Sandra explained. "But they cannot ask for help directly because that would mean admitting they need us." The messages were getting more and more desperate. Some offered valuable Zentari technologies in exchange for academic collaboration. Others suggested cultural exchange programs that would bring human scientists to Zentari worlds. A few even hinted at changing the Galactic Council's position on human membership. President Stone read all these reports in her secure office. She had been monitoring the alien crisis for months, watching as their proud civilization slowly fell apart. The human president felt no joy in their suffering, but she understood that this was a crucial moment for humanity's future. "How many aliens have died so far?" she asked Dr. Rachel Torres. "The official numbers are being hidden," Rachel replied, "but our estimates suggest around 12 million dead on the Nereid homeworld. Maybe 8 million more from the Vorthak Hive City failures. The economic collapse has caused famines that could kill hundreds of millions." President Stone closed her eyes for a moment. Every human instinct told her to help. Humans were naturally generous people who wanted to save lives and reduce suffering. But she also knew that helping now would only reset the cycle of alien arrogance and human servitude. "What about individual aliens speaking out?" the president asked. "More every day," Rachel said. "Young scientists, engineers, and artists are questioning their government's treatment of humans. But their leaders are silencing them quickly. This was the most encouraging development. Some aliens were finally recognizing that their species have made a terrible mistake in dismissing humanity. Unfortunately, these voices were being suppressed by the older, more powerful aliens who refused to admit error. The breakthrough came when 17 alien fleets suddenly appeared on the edge of human space. General Matt Johnson tracked their movements from the Defense Command Center as the ships took position around Earth's solar system. "Are they attacking?" asked Admiral Chris Turner, who was preparing human defense fleets. "No," Matt replied, studying the sensor data. "They are not in attack formation. They look more like a desperate delegation." The alien fleets included ships from every major civilization. Vorthak war cruisers that were running on emergency power. Zentari crystal ships that flickered weakly. Nereid water vessels carrying refugees from their dying homeworld. Even the Proud Traders Guild had sent their largest commercial ships, but they were not attacking, they were waiting. "They want to negotiate," Admiral Turner realized, "but they cannot admit it officially. So they send their fleets to threaten us, hoping we will contact them first." President Stone made a decision that would change galactic history. "Let them wait," she ordered. "If they want to talk, they can send a proper diplomatic message asking for help, no threats, no demands. A simple request for assistance." For 3 days, the alien fleet stayed at the edge of human space. During that time, more bad news reached them from their homeworlds. The crystal resonance had now spread to 68 planets. Some Nereid colonies had lost all their clean water. Vorthak refugees were fleeing their homeworld in ships that barely worked. Finally, on the 4th day, a message arrived at the Human Defense Command. It was from Council Leader Zephyros himself, and it contained words that no alien leader had ever spoken to humanity before. "We humbly request assistance from the people of Earth. We have made errors in judgment regarding human capabilities. We are prepared to discuss terms for correcting these errors in exchange for your help with our current crisis." President Stone read the message twice. It was not a perfect apology, but it was a start. More importantly, it was an admission that the aliens needed human help. "Send a reply," she ordered. "Tell them we are willing to discuss the situation, but the discussions will happen on our terms, in our space, with our rules." For the first time in galactic history, aliens would have to come to humans as supplicants instead of masters. Admiral Chris Turner watched his screens as 17 alien fleets moved closer to Earth. The ships looked powerful and dangerous, but Chris knew better. His sensors showed the truth. Half the alien vessels were running on emergency power. Many had damaged weapon systems. Some were barely holding together. "They are trying to look strong," Chris said to his bridge crew. "But they are desperate." The human defense fleet was much smaller than the alien armada. Only 12 ships protected Earth's solar system. But those 12 ships represented 3 years of secret human innovation. They carried weapons and shields that no alien had ever seen. "Should we show them what we can do?" asked Captain Lisa Carter. She now commanded the newest human warship, the Earth vessel Victory. "Not yet," Chris replied. "Let them make the first move." The alien fleets arranged themselves in what looked like an attack formation around Mars, but Chris could see it was really a desperate bluff. They wanted humans to think they were still powerful, still in control. The test came when a Vorthek war cruiser fired a warning shot near a human patrol ship. The energy beam was meant to show alien strength and demand human attention. Instead, it revealed alien weakness. The human patrol ship did not even slow down. Its shields absorbed the alien weapon blast like it was nothing more than sunlight. Then the small human vessel did something impossible. It disappeared. "Stealth technology?" Chris explained to his amazed crew. "Katie Brooks figured out how to bend light around our ships. The aliens cannot see us unless we want them to." The Vorthek cruiser fired again, but this time at empty space. The human ship had moved, but alien sensors could not track it. More. Human ships activated their stealth systems. Within minutes, the alien fleets were shooting at shadows while human vessels moved freely among them. "This is Admiral Turner to all alien vessels," Chris broadcast on open channels. "You are inhuman. Space without permission. Follow our escort ships to the designated area near Mars or leave immediately." The alien response was immediate confusion. They could not see the human escort ships Chris was talking about. Their sensors showed empty space. But they could hear human voices giving them directions. Slowly, carefully. The alien fleets followed the invisible human guides to a parking area near Mars. They had no choice. Fighting an enemy they could not see was impossible. Dr. Patricia Lane arrived at the Mars orbital station the next day. Patricia was Earth's top scientist, and she carried the solution to the alien crisis in her tablet computer. But first, she wanted to make sure the aliens understood their situation. "Bring the alien leaders aboard our station," Patricia told the security team, "but let them see everything. No hiding our technology anymore." The alien delegation was small but important. Council leader Zephyros flickered weakly as his energy form was contained in a special chamber. The Nereid Prime Minister floated in a tank of the last clean water from her homeworld. The Vorthek High Commander clicked nervously as his breathing apparatus worked overtime in the artificial atmosphere. They were led through corridors filled with technology that made no sense to them. Human computers that seemed to think for themselves. Energy systems that produced more power than they consumed. Materials that were stronger than anything in the alien databases. "How is this possible?" whispered the Zentari delegate, a crystal, being named Kethmore. 3 years ago, your technology was primitive. 3 years ago, you were not paying attention," replied Ambassador Kevin Ross. Kevin had been chosen to lead the human negotiations because he was patient, smart, and completely unimpressed by alien arrogance. The aliens were brought to a conference room where Earth's leaders waited. President Stone sat at the head of a simple table. There were no fancy decorations or impressive displays. Just humans and aliens finally meeting as equals. "You requested our assistance," President Stone began. "Before we discuss helping you, we need to address some issues." Council leader Zephyros flickered brighter with hope. "We are prepared to offer significant compensation for your aid. Valuable technologies, rare materials, territorial concessions." "We do not want your payment," President Stone replied calmly. "We want your recognition." The aliens looked confused. Recognition was not something they had expected humans to demand. Dr. Patricia Lane stood up and activated a holographic display. It showed the crystal resonance crisis spreading across the galaxy. 68 worlds were now affected, and the number was growing every day. The solution is simple, Patricia explained. The crystal resonance is caused by emotional feedback loops. Your crystals are responding to the collective anxiety and fear of your people. To stop the resonance, you need to change the emotional state of your entire civilization. She paused to let this sink in. But you cannot do this yourselves because you do not understand emotions the way humans do. You have tried to eliminate feelings from your society? That created the instability that is now destroying you. The Zentari delegate made a sound like breaking glass. You're saying our logical approach caused this crisis? Your logical approach is not wrong, Patricia replied, but it is incomplete. Logic without emotion leads to rigid systems that cannot adapt. Emotion without logic leads to chaos that cannot build. You need both. She changed the holographic display to show human cities. Human civilization works because we balance logic and emotion, order and chaos, planning and improvisation. We are not more advanced than you, we are more complete. Ambassador Kevin Ross took over the presentation. For the galaxy to survive, all species need to work together. Not with some species ruling over others, but as true partners with equal voices. He pulled up the charter for a new organization. We propose replacing the Galactic Council with the Galactic Partnership. Every species gets equal representation, every voice gets heard. Every approach to problem-solving gets respected. The alien delegates exchanged worried glances. Equal representation meant giving up their superior positions. It meant admitting that humans were not primitives to be protected or ignored. What guarantees do we have? Asked the Vorthic commander. How do we know humans will not seek revenge for our past treatment? President Stone smiled for the first time during the meeting. Because that is not who we are. Humans believe in second chances. We believe in building better futures, not punishing past mistakes. She stood up and walked to a window showing the alien fleets floating near Mars. But we also believe in learning from experience. The old system failed because it was based on arrogance and exclusion. The new system must be based on respect and inclusion. Dr. Patricia Lane returned to her display of the crystal crisis. Every day you delay this decision, more people die. Your pride is literally killing your civilizations. The truth of her words hit the aliens like a physical blow. They had come to Earth expecting to negotiate from a position of strength. Instead, they were begging for help to save their own people. Council leader Zephyros was the first to speak. If we agree to this partnership, will you help us immediately? The moment the new charter is signed, President Stone promised. The negotiations took 18 hours. Every detail had to be worked out. Voting procedures, territorial rights, trade regulations, military cooperation. But the most important part was the opening statement of the new charter. All species are equal in dignity and worth. All approaches to knowledge and problem-solving have value. No species shall be considered superior or inferior to any other. The galaxy belongs to everyone who calls it home. When the signing ceremony was complete, Dr. Patricia Lane immediately began working with alien scientists to solve their crises. The crystal resonance problem was fixed within hours using a combination of human, emotional understanding and alien crystal technology. The water purification systems on Nereid worlds were repaired using human creativity and Nereid engineering. The Vorthak hive cities were stabilized using human chaos theory and Vorthak organizational skills. Most importantly, the economic collapse was reversed using human unpredictability and alien computational power. The galaxy's trade systems were redesigned to expect and benefit from chaos instead of being destroyed by it. 6 months later, Ambassador Kevin Ross stood in the new partnership hall on a neutral space station. Around him, delegates from dozens of species worked together on problems that no single civilization could solve alone. The galaxy was stronger than it had ever been. Not because any species had become more powerful, but because all species had learned to value what made each other different. Humans were no longer overlooked or dismissed. They were recognized as essential partners whose unique perspective helped keep the galaxy stable and growing. And the aliens had learned the most important lesson of all: Dismissing others based on differences was not just wrong, it was dangerous. True strength came from bringing together different ways of thinking, not from forcing everyone to think the same way. The galaxy had almost destroyed itself through arrogance. But it had been saved by recognizing that every voice mattered. Every perspective had value, and every species deserved respect. Now, when new civilizations applied to join the Galactic Partnership, they were welcome not despite their differences but because of them.